Welcome to Exploring Orthodoxy. Good to see you, Geronda Savvas.
Good to see you. God bless you.
God bless you too, thanks. Now we're continuing with our study on John CLIMACUS, who was a 7th century monk and abbot of the monastery of St. Catherine on Mount Sinai, which was a pivotal centre of Christian monasticism. So St. John is renowned for many spiritual writings, but one of the most popular that he's known for is the Ladder of Divine Ascent, which is the study that we are doing. And he will talk about spiritual growth through a series of ascetic practices. And all his teachings, they emphasize humility, prayer, and the importance of a pursuit towards divine knowledge. And this influenced both the monastic communities as well as, in general, Christian spirituality for now centuries. Isn't that right, Geronda?
Exactly, as you said.
So it's interesting, he went to St. Catherine Monastery because that was, I believe, the spiritual area where Moses was.
Yes, where
Mount
Moses passed
Sinai.
from there,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. All right. So now these are the steps. There are 30 steps, and we have covered step 1 on renunciation of the world, step 2 on detachment, step 3 on exile or pilgrimage, and concerning dreams and beginners have. We are currently on step 4 on blessed and ever memorable obedience. We've seen a number of examples that St. John has given us, and we're actually up to the first snare. Now, Geronda, would you like to say something to the people, and I'll find the page?
We will have to be patient and to read this book, because it's not only to read. I hear many times people saying that I read this book, or I read these books, or I search about these religions, and it's not about reading only, but it's about studying. That's why we are reading this book, and also we are commenting and analyzing the deepest meaning of the words, because it's not only to read. The most important is to understand the deepest spiritual meaning, and to try to pass it in our lives, because this is the most difficult thing. And we don't just read it just to take some knowledges, but to put it in our life, in action, so we will be able to work in these virtues and to possess them. This is the meaning of these sessions that we do.
We've done some incredible talks and a huge study where we completed the book of Revelation. And now a follow-up, an amazing follow-up with St. John Climacus, the Divine Ladder. These are incredible studies we're doing back to back. Yes.
God help us, yes.
Yeah, what a blessing. All right, so we're up to now the first snare, number 58 here. The devil battles with those in obedience, sometimes to defile them with bodily pollutions and make them hard-hearted, and sometimes to provoke more than usual restlessness. At other times, he makes them dry and barren, sluggish in prayer, drowsy and confused by spiritual darkness, in order to tear them away from their struggle by making them think that they have gained nothing by their obedience, but only backsliding. For he does not allow them time to reflect that often the providential withdrawal of our imagined goods or blessings leads us to the deepest humility.
Yes, here Saint John has a very because he's a very capable spiritual leader and guider and experienced guider, spiritual guider. He says all these things that someone that he's trying to be obedience and to make obedience, as we say in Greek, what he's going to deal and to confront, because the devil he will try to set up traps, and these are the traps. And as an experienced warrior, Saint John is saying all these traps, so we will avoid all these traps of the devil, because as we said, the devil don't want us to make obedience, because we are going to a deepest humility if we do this obedience. And these are the traps that he try to trap the people that they are fighting with obedience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
59. However, some have often repelled that deceiver by patience. But while he is still speaking, another angel stands by us and after a little while tries to hoodwink us in another way. It's amazing.
Yeah, yes, amazing these things. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so isn't it interesting that St. John said that even though the devil is there trying to deceive us, but when we have patience, and even while the devil is still speaking, that there's another angel that stands by us to protect us.
Yes, and these are not words, you know. These, as I said to you before, that he was an experience.
Mm,
He was an expert spiritual guider. That's why also he wrote this book, because you can read, you can write these things if you don't experience these things, you know.
mm.
And it's amazing because Saint John was able to see this angel that he is standing in the right side of
The devil
uh,
and
yeah, the devil and the good angel and the bad angel.
mm,
He was able to see these things, and he what he saw, what he was experiencing, what experience. This is what he's describing.
yeah, and that the angel, if we have patience, after a little while, the angel will help us in another way away from the devil.
Yes, and this is the only way to be able to confront the devil and to pass all these traps.
Mm. The
Yes.
second snare. I have seen some living in obedience who, through their father's direction, became filled with compunction, meek, temperate, zealous, free from inner conflicts, and fervent. But demons came to them and sowed in them the thought that they now had the qualifications for the solitary life, and that in solitude they would attain to freedom from passion as the final prize. Thus deceived, they left the harbour and put out to sea. But when a storm came down upon them, they were pitifully exposed to danger from this foul and bitter ocean through being unprovided with pilots.
Yes. Here we see many things. We see that some people that they living in obedience, they are gaining these virtues, you know, to be compunction, to be temperate, to be free of from inner conflicts and fervent, all these things. And when they succeed these things, not the virtues, not to be free from the passions, they take courage to go to the superior life of the monastic life, that is the solitary life, to be alone. That this is not easy. You have to go many, many years after obedience and after be with a spiritual father, that you will possess the virtue, and then you go to the solitary life. That's why some people that they thought that we are ready now to leave our spiritual father and to go to the solitary life, they went there, but they didn't make it, because if you go there to be alone, This is the most difficult thing from the monastic life. It's one of the stages that you have to possess the virtue to go there. And that's why it says here very
Mhm.
nice that they left the port, they went into the sea, to the ocean, but it was difficult there, and they saw how bitter is the
Mm.
ocean troubles when you are alone.
When you don't have a pilot to direct you.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
it. Number 60. This sea is bound to be stirred up and roused and enraged, so as to cast out of it again onto the dry land the wood and hay, and all the corruption that was brought down into it by the rivers of the passions. Let us watch nature, and we shall find that after a storm at sea, there comes a deep calm.
Yeah, of course, this is after a war, after a storm at sea, there comes a deep calm. Is about the passions that when you fight your passions, you have to go through this storm,
Mhm.
and if you want to find a release and freedom from passions, you have to go through fighting.
Mm.
Otherwise, you can't do it.
That's right. 61. He who is sometimes obedient to his father and sometimes disobedient is like a person who sometimes puts lotion in his eyes and sometimes quicklime. For it is said, when one builds, another pulls down. What profit have they had but the labor?
Yeah, yeah. Can you read it again in the
Mhm.
first sentence?
Yeah.
Yes.
He who is sometimes obedient to his father and sometimes disobedient is like a person who sometimes puts lotion in his eyes and sometimes quicklime. For it is
Yes.
said,
Yes, this means that if you do obedience sometimes and sometimes you don't obey, you have nothing to win, to earn. Not only you have nothing to gain about this, but you will lose everything because this is not obedience. And here, Saint John have to show us that if you are not accurate in what you do in obedience, to be obedient person in everything, then you will not take something from this. You will not gain something from this, but it will be disaster for you.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So 62, do not be deceived, son and obedient servant of the Lord, by the spirit of conceit, so that you confess your own sins to your master as if they were another person's. You cannot escape shame except by shame. It is often the habit of the demons to persuade us either not to confess or to do so as if we were confessing another person's sins or to lay the blame for our sin on others. Lay bare your wound to the physician, and without being ashamed, say, it is my wound, Father, it is my plague caused by my own negligence and not by anything else. No one is to blame for this. No man, no spirit, no body, nothing but my own carelessness.
You see, even the monks, we have these problems. When we go to confess, devil is coming, and because he's step on our egoism,
Mhm.
and he's trying to say that make it more better, so it not so hard. Okay, you've done this, but you have not, you must not humiliate yourself. Make it it's not your fault. It was a
Yeah.
problem. You are a human person, and he's trying to make it beautiful, our sin.
Mm,
But this is the point. You can't avoid shame, to be shame without be shame
that's
in the
right.
people. So because also we, the monks, we have these problems. So fancy the people that they living in the world outside, how how ashamed they are when they go to confess.
And just in one sentence, he says so much. No one is to blame for this. No man, no spirit, no body,
Nobody.
nothing but my own carelessness. He
Yeah,
says it
and
all.
yes, in the previous sentence, if you go above,
Mhm.
lay bare your wounds. You know, he says two times, sow your wounds, and don't hide it. You know, because
Mm.
you can't heal your wounds if you don't sow to the to your spiritual father.
And when we do our prayers, we should be laying our wounds to Jesus. We should be confessing to Jesus all our wounds.
This is the first confession. If we don't do it first to Jesus, then we don't do it to a person.
That's it. 63, at confession, be like a condemned criminal in disposition and in outward appearance and in thought. Cast your eyes to the earth, and if possible, sprinkle the feet of your judge and physician as the feet of Christ with your tears.
Yeah. Show us how we have to be when we confess.
64. If everything depends on habit and follows upon it, then still more do the virtues depend on habit, for they have God as their great collaborator.
Yes. It's very obvious what he says here, you know.
65. You will not labor many years, son, in search of blessed inner peace, if in the beginning you surrender yourself with all your soul to indignities.
Meaning here is something very important, because if you want to proceed fast, quick in the spiritual life, you have to surrender yourself to the spiritual father, your spiritual father, and to make obedience whatever he says. Otherwise, it's it's worthless, you know. And this is the point. When you do something, do it correct.
Number 66. Do not think that it is improper to make your confession to your helper as to God in a prostrate position. I have seen condemned criminals by their sorry appearance and violent confession and entreaty soften the severity of the judge and change his anger into mercy. That is why even John the Baptist required confession before baptism of those who came to him, not because he himself needed to know their sins, but so as to effect their salvation.
Yes, incredible, very understandable.
You don't often hear that John the Baptist was asking for their confessions before baptism.
Of course, of course, and that's why in the gospel inside says that they was saying the sins, and
Oh,
after they
that's
was
right.
baptized.
That's right.
And
That's right.
yes, and but for Christ, for Jesus Christ, he went there and he
Mhm.
baptized immediately because he didn't have to say sins.
Yeah, he was
You know?
sinless.
Yes, that's why when he went, he was baptized.
Mm.
Yeah.
67. Let us not be surprised if even after confession we are still attacked, for it is better to struggle with thoughts than with conceit.
Yes. Um, this is something that Saint John tried to warn us and uh, to make us comfortable, that if we receive war, if we receive attack from the enemies after we confess, is something that is normal. It's not
Mm.
something that we will say, but why I confess, and it's something that we will have to have it. You see, this is the experience that whatever he has experienced in his life, in his spiritual life, and in his ascetic life, he's he's passing now to us, and this is what is valued in this book.
Mm. And the key would be that after confession, that you're trying harder or, not to be in the same situation again.
Also,
To
yes,
keep building on your skills.
yes,
68. Do not be over eager and do not be carried away when you hear tales of the silent and hermit fathers, for you are marching in the army of the first martyr. And if you fall, do not leave the practice ground, for then, especially more than ever, we need a physician. He who strikes his foot against a stone when he has help would certainly not only have stumbled unaided, but would have died.
yeah. This is something that it's exclusive for monks because,
Mm,
as you see, he says, "Do not be over eager, and do not be carried away when you hear tales from the silent and hermit's fathers," meaning that when a monk is hearing what they succeed and how they live, the
mm,
hermitages and the ascetic people, he have this thing inside him, this flame, to go also to imitate them.
mhm,
But here he says, don't don't think about these things, but because you are marching in the army of the first martyr. Who is the first martyr? It's Jesus Christ,
mhm,
because he was obedient to his father, and that's why Paul inside the gospel says that he was obedient to his father until death, and this
mm,
is the glory of these people, that they make obedience to the other, because this is not something very easy, it's something very difficult. That's why he says that do not distract your mind from these tales and from this history, from these things, but focus to your obedience, because if it's very easy to be wounded when you do
mm,
obedience. Fancy yourself when you're alone, and you will not have someone to help you if you fall down by sins or by whatever.
mm. It's interesting because it says, and if you fall, do not leave the practice ground. They're saying while you're alive, all the challenges, consider it a practice ground where it's for you to, spiritually
Yeah.
grow.
And also, if you fall, it's not something that you die. You fall,
Mm,
you get up, you rise.
that's
You fall,
right.
you rise. Yes.
Yep, 69. When we are brought down, then the demons quickly attack us, and seizing on a reasonable or rather unreasonable pretext, they advise us to adopt the life of a solitary. The aim of our enemies is to inflict wounds upon us as we sin.
Yes. What we said before.
Mhm. 70. When a physician protests his incompetence, then you have to go to another, because few are healed without a physician. And who would think of contradicting us when we say that every ship that encounters shipwreck with a skilled pilot would be utterly lost without a pilot?
Yeah. I think this is very understandable. If you don't have someone to lead you,
Mhm.
how you can go through this fight against devil? How? It's
Mm.
impossible.
71. From obedience comes humility, and from humility comes dispassion. For the Lord remembered us in our humility and redeemed us from our enemies. Therefore, nothing prevents us from saying that from obedience comes dispassion, through which the goal of humility is attained. For humility is the beginning of dispassion, as Moses in the beginning of the law, and the daughter perfects the mother, as Mary perfects the synagogue.
Yeah. Yes, this is very important because once again, Saint John is saying to us the result of the obedience, that is humility, and the result of the humility is dispassion. Is what it's the road that we have to follow. That's why it's an answer for above, for the people that they say that I will go to the solitary life and I will be there to fight and to gain the dispassion life. And if you don't do obedience to the spiritual, to your spiritual father, you are not going to be humiliated, and you are not going to dispassion yourself.
72. Those sick souls who try out a physician and receive help from him and then abandon him out of the preference for another before they are completely healed deserve every punishment from God. Do not run from the hands of him who has brought you to the Lord, for you will never in your life esteem anyone like him.
Yes. Why they deserve every punishment from God? Because God lead them to this physician, to this spiritual father, and they didn't accept him. They didn't accept to be, to complete the healing. And when we say to complete the healing, is to throw away every passion inside them. And that's why when we find someone that he is really a good physician, a good spiritual father, we must not abandon him, because it's like we are abandoning the plan of God to save us and to lead us to the virtue.
73. It is dangerous for an inexperienced soldier to leave his regiment and engage in single combat, and it is not without peril for a monk to attempt the solitary life before he has had much experience and practice in the struggle with the animal passions. The one subjects his body to danger, and the other risks his soul. Two are better than one, says Scripture. That is to say, it is better for a son to be with his father and to struggle with his attachments with the help of the divine power of the Holy Spirit. He who deprives a blind man of his leader, a flock of its shepherd, a lost man of his guide, a child of its father, a patient of his doctor, a ship of its pilot, imperils all. And he who attempts unaided to struggle with the spirits gets killed by them.
Yeah, very, very important, you know. Yeah, it's not, if you are not ready to attempt the solitary life and you go and seek a single combat with the devil, then it's very difficult because you don't, it's not just a matter of killing yourself physically, but you will kill yourself spiritually, your soul, and this is the worst thing that it can happen to you.
74. Let those entering a hospital for the first time indicate their pains, and let those entering upon obedience show their humility. For the former, the first sign of their health is the relief of their pains, and for the latter, a growing self-condemnation, and there is no other sign of unerring.
Yeah, this is very important also. Let those entering a hospital for the first time indicate their pains, you know, because this means that when you go to a spiritual father, you go because you are ill spiritually and you need a doctor, a physician to heal you. That's why you don't have to go out of the hospital. This is an answer to the previous paragraph. That means that you have to heal yourself first to be okay, and then to go out of the hospital. So you have to heal the passions, to throw away the passions, and then to go to a single combat and to a solitary life.
75. Let your conscience be the mirror of your obedience, and it is enough.
This means that you have to test yourself if you do obedience. And this is your conscience, because sometimes when our spiritual fathers goes away from the monastery for some reasons, works, things to do, we have to stay alone. But as Saint John mentioned many paragraphs before, we have to still make obedience to him, because we know what he wants, our spiritual father, and we know what he was going to tell us to do. So the conscience is the mirror of our obedience, because when our spiritual father is away, we have to continue to make obedience as he was there.
And so your conscious, your thoughts, your thinking, you should hold them up like a mirror for your obedience to see if
Yeah,
it's
you have to
enough.
test. You have to see all the time. You have to see,
Mm-hmm.
because the mirror show you yourself,
Yeah.
you know.
76. Those living in silence, subject to a father, have only demons working against them. But those living in a community struggle with demons and human beings, the former being always under the eyes of the master, keep his commands more strictly, but the latter, on account of his absence, break them to some extent. However, those who are careful and industrious more than make up for this failing by enduring collisions and knocks and win double crowns.
Yeah, I think this is very, very easy to comprehend.
Okay. 77. Let us keep guard over ourselves with all care, for when a harbour is full of ships, it is easy for them to get crushed by each other, especially if they are secretly riddled with bad temper as by some worm.
Yeah, meaning that where we are with other people together in the monastic life, in the monastery, it's very easy to start to cross to each other. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to be very careful to make obedience, but also to be careful not to be angry with the other people and to start to fight.
78. Let us practice extreme silence and ignorance in the presence of the superior. For a silent man is a son of wisdom, always acquiring much knowledge.
And also a silent man is he's avoiding all the bad things that with the words can come, because you can say a word and then the other will say two and then you will say five and then you start to argue and all these things happening, and you lose your temper, you lose the prey, you lose your calm, and you lose your purpose.
And then you'll have lots of confessions.
And lots of problems.
That's
Lot of
right.
problems.
Yeah. 79. I have seen a religious who used to snatch the words from his superior's lips, but I despaired of his obedience when I saw it led to pride and not to humility.
Also these things happening,
Mhm.
Yeah.
80. Let us keep wide awake with all vigilance, take care with all carefulness, watch with all watchfulness as to when and how service should be preferred to prayer, for you cannot do all things at all times.
Yes, I think also this is something very comprehensible.
Mhm. 81. Attend to yourself in the presence of your brethren and never try to appear more correct than they are in any circumstance whatever. For if you do, you will have wrought a double ill. You will sting them by your false and hypocritical zeal, and you will give yourself a motive for presumption.
Yes, meaning that you don't have to show off or you don't have to do something that you will irritate other people, because sometimes we don't speak. We when they speak to us, we become silent because we are praying and we show off in this way. We don't have to do this. We have to be simple with other people and to show off when we are alone, not with other people.
82, be zealous within your soul without showing it in the least, either by visible sign or by word or by a hint. And you will only do this when you stop looking down on your neighbor. But if you are still inclined to do this, become like your brethren so that you do not differ from them simply in being conceited.
Exactly. It's what we said before.
83, I saw an inexperienced disciple who, in the presence of certain people, boasted of the achievements of his teacher, thinking to win glory for himself from another's harvest. But he only earned for himself dishonor, for everybody asked him, but how could a good tree grow such a barren branch?
Yeah. This is something very common in our spiritual life, because also now many people come to me and said that I met Saint Paisios, I met Saint Porphyrios, I met this saint, I met this eldest, I met this, and I hear many times people to say, and you met these people and you are in this condition yet, you know. So it doesn't matter if you met holy people in your way, but what you've done in your own to your life, what you've done, you know.
And the same can be said for the holy relics. People can say, oh, I've got holy relics of this saint, and another saint, but that doesn't
Yeah,
mean they're more
yeah,
spiritual if they're not practicing, obedience and everything.
exactly, because it's the holiness can't contaminate you. You know, you have to do it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
because you came in contact with a holy person you will become
That's
holy
right.
also. Yeah,
Hmm. 84, it is not when we courageously endure the derision of our Father that we are judged patient, but when we endure it from all manner of men. For we bear with our Father both out of respect and out of out sorry for we bear with our Father both out of respect and as a duty to him.
yes. This is something that confirmed the above.
Mhm. 85, eagerly drink scorn and insult as the water of life from everyone who wants to give you the drink that cleanses from lust. Then a deep purity will dawn in your soul, and the divine light will not grow dim in your heart.
Yeah, but it's very difficult to drink scorn and insult as the water of life, you know, because this is what is purifying you.
Mhm.
It's difficult because we are egoists.
86. If anyone sees that the brotherhood is appeased by his efforts, he should not boast of it in his heart, because thieves are around. Always remember him who said, when you have done all that is commanded you, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have only done what we were bound to do. The judgment on our labors we shall know at the time of our death.
Exactly. The judgment of our labors we shall know at the time of our death, and only at the time of our death.
87. A monastery is an earthly heaven. Therefore, let us tune our heart to be like angels serving the Lord. Sometimes those who live in this heaven have hearts of stone, but sometimes again, through compunction, they attain to consolation in such a way as to avoid conceit or presumption, and they lighten their labors with tears.
Yeah, very, very easy to understand this, I believe. Yes.
88. A little fire softens a large piece of wax. So too, a small indignity often softens, sweetens, and wipes away suddenly all the fierceness, uncouthness, insensibility, and hardness of our heart.
It happens. It happens many times.
Mm-hmm. I think, is that similar to that verse that says, when you put coals on someone's head,
Yes.
is there something similar there?
Yes. Yes.
So if someone's
It is.
putting coals on someone's head, if someone's doing something bad and you return it for good, it's like putting coals on their heads.
Mhm.
Anyway, 89. I once saw two sitting in hiding and watching the labors and listening to the groans of the ascetics, but one was doing this in order to emulate them, the other in order, when the chance came, openly to mock and to impede God's laborer in his good work.
This is how people thinks because it's about the how what you have inside your heart. You know, you can see something good and someone can take it, give glory to God, and someone can accuse God for something. And this is what St. John explained here to
Mhm.
us.
90. Do not be so unreasonably silent as to annoy and embitter others, and do not be slow in your gait and actions when ordered to hasten. Otherwise, you'll be worse than the possessed and the rebellious. Often I have seen, as Job says, souls suffering from slowness of character, but sometimes from eagerness. And I was amazed at the diversity of evil.
Yes. Here is says that do not be so unreasonably silent as to annoy, because sometimes we don't speak when someone speaks to us, and we irritate him, and it's bad because it's like um, we don't give attention to him, and this is not good. This is not asceticism. This is
Mm,
madness. You know, we have to be silent when we have to be silent, not when we are asked for someone to speak. And this is what Saint John says, that don't do these things because you challenge the other person to think bad about you. That's why you become possessed or rebellious when you do these things.
It's like, so with the lay people, if you're ignoring someone, that's actually a form of evil.
Exactly, exactly.
91. He who is not alone but is with others cannot derive so much profit from psalmody as from prayer, for the confusion of voices renders the psalms indistinct.
Yes, uh, it's not easy. The psalmody, the prayer, to pray and to do psalmodies is the same, but also different because you pray by the psalmody. But when you chant, this is the psalmody. It's very difficult to pray also when you chant because your mind is very easy to go away.
92. Constantly wrestle with your thought, and whenever it wanders, call it back to you. God does not require from those still under obedience prayer completely free of distractions. Do not despond when your thoughts are flinched, but remain calm and unceasingly recall your mind. Unbroken recollection is proper only to an angel.
Yeah, this is the answer to some people that they make obedient to a spiritual father, that they want to have pray completely free from distractions, and says this is not easy, and this is not for you for the time, because unbroken recollection is proper only to an angel. Only angels can do this, you
Mm.
know, and he's comforted these people not to be sad about because they don't have pray without distractions.
Mm. And to unceasingly recall your mind. So keep trying to focus, bring your focus back.
All the time for other
Mm.
people, for all people, you know, this is what
Mm.
we are struggling to bring our mind back to the attention of the praying.
Mhm. 93. He who has secretly vowed not to retire from the struggle till his last breath and to endure 1,000 deaths of body and soul will not easily fall into any of these defects, for inconstancy of heart and infidelity to one's place always cause stumblings and disasters. Those who easily go from place to place are complete failures, for nothing causes fruitlessness so much as impatience.
Yeah, it's very, very obvious and very easy to understand this.
94. If you come to an unknown physician and hospital, behave as though you were passing by and secretly test the life and the spiritual experience of all those living there. And when you begin to feel benefit from the doctors and nurses and get relief from your sicknesses, and especially with regard to your special disease, namely spiritual pride, then go to them and buy it with the gold of humility, and write the contract on the parchment of obedience with the letters of service and with the angels as witnesses, and tear up and destroy in their presence the parchment of your own will. By going from place to place, you get into the way of wasting the price with which Christ bought you. Let the monastery be your tomb before the tomb, for no one will come out of the grave until the general resurrection. And if some religious have left their tomb, see, they are dead. Let us implore the Lord that this may not happen to us.
Yes, this means that you have to test the people that they are in the monastery before you take the vows of the monastic life. And if you see that they're good, you will remain there. Don't go away, because you will become fruitless, as says before above. Because when you go here and there, and you don't stay to be grounded somewhere, then you will never have fruits in your spiritual life.
95. When the senses find the orders heavy, the more lazy decide that they would prefer to devote themselves to prayer. But when they find they are ordered to do something easy, they run from prayer as from fire.
Yeah, now we speak about the traps and the deceiving of devil, because when we go to the monastery, we go there to dedicate ourselves to pray, to make obedience, but still the devil will fight us and say, don't do this because it's very hard. Or if the pray, it's okay, we do the pray. Or if something that we are ordered is something easy and comfortable, to go for a trip or to go for something to do, then we are running to make obedience. But it's not this. We are running to comfort ourselves and to enjoy ourselves. It's not obedience.
Isn't it funny how he writes, where he says, when they are ordered to do something easy, they run from prayer as from fire.
Yes, because the prayer is very difficult. It's not easy.
But they're running from prayer as if it's a fire.
Yes.
That they have to get away. We'll do the other easy task.
Yes.
He's got a sense of humor, you must admit. 96. Some undertake a particular duty, but for a brother's peace of mind, at his request they leave it. And some leave their work through laziness, and some do not leave it out of vainglory, and some do not leave it out of zeal. So continue?
Yeah. Yes.
If you have bound yourself by obligations and notice that your soul's eye is making no progress, do not get leave to quit. The genuine are genuine everywhere, and the reverse is equally true. In the world, slander has caused many separations, but in communities, greed produces all the falls and rejections. If you rule over your mistress, i.e., your stomach, every place of residence will give you dispassion. But if she rules over you, then outside the tomb, you'll be in danger everywhere.
Yeah. If you rule over your mistress, it's very important, because this is something. If you are strong enough to rule over your stomach and to be disciplined to what you eat and how you eat and how much you eat, then you can rule everything.
98. The Lord, who makes wise the blind, opens the eyes of the obedient to the virtues of their guide, and he blinds them to his defects. But the hater of good does the opposite.
Yes.
99.
I think it's,
Okay.
yes, 99, yes. Yeah.
Yep. Let us find in what is called quicksilver an image of perfect obedience. For with whatever material we roll it, it runs to the lowest place and will mix with no defilement.
Yeah, this is for the above also.
Mhm. Let the zealous be particularly attentive to themselves, lest by condemning the careless, they themselves incur worse condemnation. And I think the reason why Lot was justified was because through living among such people, he never seems to have condemned them.
Yeah, we don't have to judge people. We have to see only what we do, and it's like we are living among people, but we don't see what they do, only what we do.
101, at all times, but most of all during the singing in church, let us keep quiet and undistracted, for by distractions the demons aim to bring our prayer to nothing.
Yes.
102, a servant of the Lord is he who in body stands before men, but in mind knocks at heaven with prayer.
Yeah, very understandable.
103, insults, humiliations, and similar things are like the bitterness of wormwood to the soul of a novice, while praises, honours, and approbation are like honey and give birth to all manner of sweetness in pleasure lovers. But let us look at the nature of each. Wormwood purifies all interior filth, while honey increases gall.
If we don't be humiliated by the other people, we are not going to throw away our ego.
104, let us trust with firm confidence those who have taken upon themselves the care of us in the Lord, even though they order something apparently contrary and opposed to our salvation. For it is then that our faith in them is tested as in a furnace of humiliation. For it is a sign of the truest faith if we obey our superiors without any hesitation, even when we see the opposite of what we hoped for happening.
Yes, I think we can understand what St. John means here.
So St. John, look, he was big on obedience regardless of what the superior was doing.
Yes, before he became abbot, and before going to the solitary life, he was more than 20 years in the monastery, more than 40 years, 40 years in the monastery, make obedience, and then he went to the solitary life. And after that, he went to the solitary life. After many years, they brought him back to become an abbot in the monastery of Sinai.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Had he written this book then? By the
He
time he
he
returned?
when he returned and when he was an abbot he was old when he composed
Wrote
this
this.
book. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
oh wow. 105. From obedience comes humility, as we have already said earlier. From humility comes discernment, as the great Cassian has said with beautiful and sublime philosophy in his chapter on discernment. From discernment comes insight, and from insight comes foresight. And who would not follow this fair way of obedience, seeing such blessings in store for him? It was of this great virtue of obedience that the good psalmist said, Thou hast in thy goodness prepared for the poor obedient soul, O God, thy presence in his heart.
Yes, it's very important to see that Saint John is uh, named here and taking sayings from Saint John the Cassian. That Saint John the Cassian was he lived in the previous century, and he was the one that he passed the monasticism and the rulers of the monasticism in the West, Italy, France, Spain, and these countries. They took the monastic life and the rules of the monastic Egyptian monastic life from John Cassian, and he books the books that he wrote. They are amazing books about monasticism, and its value so much as valuing the ladder of Saint John. But it's very important to see that Saint John, the Sinaitis, took many things from John the Cassian about these things, and this is the tradition. You know, the Holy Fathers, whatever they took it from the previous Holy Fathers, and they continue the tradition. Because if you don't do this, you are out of the tradition.
It's amazing that he liked the texts that Cassian wrote. He said he had sublime philosophy. That's a high praise.
Yes.
Sublime philosophy.
In his chapter on discernment, you know.
Yes, on discernment. That's right. Okay, 106. Throughout your life, remember that great athlete who for 18 whole years never heard with his outward ears his superiors say the words, may you be saved, but inwardly heard daily from the Lord, not merely may you be saved, which is an uncertain wish, but you are saved, which is definite and sure.
Yes. This is about a person that he was obedient to a person, to a father, that he was very tough, but and he was really making obedience in difficult things. That's why he said that he was hearing from the Lord, not may you be saved, but you are saved. That is something incredible.
It's interesting that he didn't hear that from his superior. His superior never said, may you be saved, but he heard from the Lord always saying, may you be saved.
Yes, because his superior was he was a tough eldest.
Sorry, I made a mistake. Yes. He not merely heard, may you be saved from the Lord, but he heard, you are saved.
You are saved, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
107, some living in obedience are noticing the condescension and indulgence of the superior, ask his permission to follow their own desires, but let them know that when they obtain this, they completely deprive themselves of the confessor's crown. For obedience is entirely foreign to hypocrisy and one's own will.
Yes, it's very important, this. And also we have to connect it with the previous paragraph.
108, there was the man who received an order, but on seeing the intention of the person who gave it, namely that the fulfillment of the order would not give him pleasure, asked to be excused. And another saw this, but unhesitatingly obeyed. The question is, which of them acted more piously?
Yeah, this is something that we know the answer, because now let's analyze this a little bit. Okay. There was the man who received an order, but on seeing the intention of the person who gave it, namely that the fulfillment of the other will not give him pleasure, meaning that a person asked his spiritual son to make an obedience, and but he didn't want to do this. He wanted to do something else. And we have two types now of spiritual sons. The ones who've done it, and then the one because of the obedience, and then one that he didn't do what he was asked, that what he was said by his spiritual father. And the question is, which of them acted more piously? I think both of them they act piously, because the one made obedience, blind obedience, that this is something that is worth it in front of the eyes of God. The second one, they didn't do what he was obedient to do, because he knew what his spiritual fathers wants, and actually he obeyed what the spiritual father wants to do deeply. So both of them, they are worth it in front of God.
Okay. 109, it is impossible that the devil should act contrary to his own will, that those living an easygoing life, whether persevering in one solitary place or in a community, convince you of this, that the temptation to retire from our place be a proof for us that our life there is pleasing to God. For being warred against is a sign that we are making war.
Yes, this is very important. It is impossible that the devil should act contrary to his own will. Let those living an easygoing life, whether this is what we said before, because if you fighting, and if you really do obedience, then you will have all these things.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, Geronda, we'll leave it there, and we'll continue next time about Saint Acacius.
Acacius.
Acacius, you call it? Oh, good.
Yes.
Now,
it's not Acacius, it's Acacius, but we will see it after. Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're in a period of Lent, and Saint John's Ladder is being read during these weeks.
Yes.
Anything
in the monasteries.
And in the churches.
Also in the churches,
and
yes.
The churches. Anything as closing comments for our listeners? For their Lent journey?
To realize how important it is to make obedience to the rulers of God. Otherwise, we are not going to be saved. Yes, it's very important.
All right, excellent. All right, well, God bless you and everyone. We'll see
God bless you all.
time. Bye for now.